Before we start the Grapple Asia podcast episode, we want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors and people that support us. Softspot.Açaí. Kat has a little store now in Tonglo, and they do some incredible acai. It's sugar-free, no preservatives, and they have little pop-ups around the place. They had a little pop-up in Paragraph and M-Quartier recently, but they're mainly based in Tonglo. They're available on Grab as well, and they do some great dairy hybrid options as well, and their nut butters are incredible. The pistachio one I highly recommend personally. Our sponsor is fightaesthetic.asia, and if you use code GRAPPLEASIA, you'll get 10% off everything except from the Alpha Gi. So thank you to Aesthetic for always supporting us. And we actually do also supply them in Thailand with free shipping as well. So this is Grapple Asia episode number 31 now, and today's date is February the 21st, I think, and Priit's doing a slight Asian tour, and he just came back from Chiang Mai. He's been to Singapore as well, and he'll be doing a seminar at Rete on the 22nd and the 23rd. Priit is a highly respected martial artist and coach known for his unique approach to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling. He's from Estonia and has gained recognition for his focus on defensive strategies, particularly in positional escapes and survival tactics. Priit, thanks for coming on the show.
Love to be here.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question is, can you just tell me how you got started in Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, short story long, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I played basketball from 3rd grade till 9th. Mm-hmm. And then pretty high level in that sense. We had the athlete class. And then when I was to go to technical school, my mother didn't let me go to high school. She was a teacher. Mm-hmm. So she was like, you're not doing this because I know what guys do, they just skip classes and one notebook for, 10 classes. Mm-hmm. So she gently forced me to go to technical school. So I studied telecommunication for 5 years. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a hobby then. I didn't do any more sports, so to speak. And a little bit my dad, a little bit the era of all the Bruce Lees, Van Damme's, Steven Seagals. I'm born 77. Mm-hmm. So, and then two of my classmates were doing some martial arts, Aikido and karate. And then I ended up actually doing both. And then some fall, I knew them. They were like maybe inviting me to classes, whatever. And then in some time in the fall, I saw there's a karate school opening pretty close to me, and I joined that. So, and then let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday I was doing karate, and then I was like, I had Tuesday, Thursday left. I did Aikido. Mm-hmm. A little bit. Then everything gets fuzzy because I did it, and then I know in some period of time my coach died, and I inherited the gym. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but they did it, and because I was the dedicated one, I was the fan and everything else, but I was too young, I guess, for that, also in some way. And then I know there's a stage also. I don't know, was it when my coach was still alive or not? So it's kind of weird to say that, but I was also a Tai Chi coach. There was an American Tai Chi teacher, Michuan Tai Chi. So I was teaching Tai Chi also. So maybe I did those things simultaneously, I don't know, can't remember anymore. So, and then finally, I think after the coach also passed away, we had to have a new direction. And our karate was kind of very, very mixed. Mm-hmm. We did some Kyakushinkai, some katas, or some Tai Chi elements, some Wing Chun elements. He was trying to combine things, A lot of soft arts came to Estonia back then, a lot of Chinese, Tai Chi masters, whatever you want to call them. And he was influenced by that, so I was always looking for their own style, as a karate guy. And then he passed away, and then I was like, what to do? And I was already a fan of, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee and stuff. And that was a kind of the era that also Wing Chun came to the scene. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that, with the whole gym went that basically. And eventually, I think I ended up switching coaches like 4 times. First was Finnish, then was German, then we left to Germany, then we went to Denmark, then Danish guy I left for Lithuania, and finally I left the Lithuanian guy for Jiu-Jitsu. But basically how I got introduced to Jiu-Jitsu was one of them, when the Finnish guy got kicked out from Estonia, the Wing Chun coach, the German guy replaced him, the first German guy student. I was kind of the second because, you know, I kind of called Finland for a Wing Chun guidance, and the Estonian Russian, he right away phoned Germany, and they overrun the Finnish guy because there was a hierarchy and stuff in place. So, and the German guy has a first student was like a former Sambo guy who was also doing now Wing Chun. Yeah, I was the second student of the German guy. And then in one point, the Estonian Russian, you know, was like, you know, Wing Chun is good in stand-up, but you also need a groundwork. And I was like, okay, you know. And then as soon as I saw it, I was like, I like it. I don't know why. Because I know some people have like, you know, it's ground and some weird and, you know, but I was like, I like it. And then I remember he started to do seminars to us. Some, you know, even like kind of weird things also, like, you know, close guard and stretching the legs, like squeezing the ribs, you know, and arm bars and some Achilles and some random stuff, so to speak. Gave up some material, started to roll. And I remember that there was a group that we did Wing Chun, and there was a side group that did already grappling, like some extra days. You know, we had some together, like 5-6 people, you know. There was some politics involved because I had to do shady shit when I taught Wing Chun. There was some lying involved and everything else, and misdirections, and a lot of weird power play that they pushed on me. And when I usually do seminars, I'm very vocal about it because these days in Jiu-Jitsu, I don't like clapping or os or whatever. I like it just Jiu-Jitsu, and I don't like any of the power plays. I'm very triggered by those because of my explanation is by previous experiences, because I was played. And then I later realized that. And then in some point I had enough of the bullshit. I still, you know, like Wing Chun. If I would have a bigger apartment, I would buy a wooden dummy. You know, I still love it, you know, but I was just, they ruined it for me. And then in a mid-season, the 2005 February, and we just left. And we said no to Wing Chun. I explained to everybody what is we call it like kitchen side, you know, what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I explained everything, what I had to do and everything else. We just left. And then we opened you can say first unofficial Jiu-Jitsu and MMA school. You know, we added the wrestling and boxing later and stuff, and that off we went. But it came through that kind of lineage. Yeah. And also in Wing Chun, we did like a Bloody Thursdays every month, maybe once. And the people that did grappling or from the side had immense advantage over the Wing Chun people that did only Wing Chun. So as soon as I was starting to interested in what actually works, there was like something's off, you know, that you can see a double leg, I can do it. And then they say me, I have to do tons out 10 years for it to work in a fight. So I was like, something doesn't add up here. Yeah. You know, and then one thing led to the other, and then all the politics and stuff, and all the race crazies, and, you know, VHS tapes of UFCs, and, you know, they did their work. So, yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by power play? Like the clapping thing, like you don't like.
So yeah, so I'm very vocal in the Jiu-Jitsu community about I don't like clapping. I met the guy who actually started us in Jiu-Jitsu, so I would consider him actually my good friend now, Cameron Quinn, apparently. Kyokushinkai Masoyama, personal interpreter. I met him in Australia, so apparently he started us, and Brazilian took it over. So because I like to teach Jiu-Jitsu in my cultural space, you know, but OS has become kind of like a fad word or something, you know. I think there's some meaning to it also, but, you know, it depends how you use it. Yeah. And then clapping is also, it took over the world, and nobody knows why or how to use it. And the point is, like, the power plays were, let's say, in structure in Wing Chun, everybody had to wait for him. So even if we were like in a seminar, he was half an hour, you know, before that 3 o'clock, so it was 2:30 there, you know. And then he didn't come to the gym. He would sit alone in a dressing room, Yeah, they didn't come to talk to people. He was sit alone, and then everything had to line up. Everybody was looking like, like a chessboard. And then if everybody was lined up, I went to the dressing room and called, now you can come. So everybody waited for him,
Yeah.
And then in some cases, there was an incident that I brought him to the gym and then, opened the trunk and, there's his bag, and he was like, and then I got the message that I have to take the bag, and those kind of weird things, and yeah, so I had to a lot of power plays, like even like if you did something in a seminar, you couldn't talk about it because if you talked about what you did in a seminar, then other people who didn't come wouldn't come to the seminar, So, and I was really there was a really close friend of mine. Erkki Benter, we were together doing Wing Chun, and how he isolated us. And it's right now, it's like, I don't know if I'm using the word sociopathic behavior, but sociopaths isolate people like this. And there was it's like, if cheese out sections, and then if I went there, I want to learn, so pay, I don't know, 40, 50 euros, always very expensive, obviously. And they show me a section, I cannot train that section with my friend. Yeah, because he didn't know it.
Yeah.
So, and if I would show to my friend that, that I'd learned this, and my friend went to the coach, and then where you got it, and Priit told me, so I would be like, this. So when he paid this, and then we can discuss. So he isolated who knows what, and then we couldn't talk to each other of what we know, so to speak. So, how do you know? Who told you this? So it's kind of like, what are we doing here, And my friend was head of life because he had kids and, married and stuff. And some young Wing Chun guy treats us like this. And first, when you love a sport like this a lot, you're willing to take some, Yeah. And then in some points, like, God damn it, it's like getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you're selling a life elixir,
Yeah.
So... And that's why we enjoy Jiu-Jitsu, so it's just what works. There's no hierarchies. We don't bow to each other. I'm not a sensei. In Wing Chun, you have to call somebody Sifu.
Yeah.
And that's a dad. And I always said, I have my dad, So I'm not calling any other man my dad, So, and then it's like those things that really bother me, that really like you and me, and then... And a lot of weird things, and and that's why I'm very triggered. And then clapping is the next one because there's a bigger story there, So people call me anti-clapper because everybody claps, I don't clap. I don't think it actually adds anything, and I know people who talked about it, who justify it. But it's an interesting topic that always comes up, and people want to know, why don't you clap? He's like, I will ask, why do you clap? So and so nothing if I do my job. Without the class is awesome. I don't think it adds anything. And so I'm trying to just teach, pure jiu-jitsu with my good jokes, and not to add anything else that we shouldn't add. And people train in their own cultural space, We do it in Estonia, in Brazil, they hug. In Estonia, we don't, And in different culture rooms, you do the same art differently, maybe. I don't mind, But so I just want to do pure jiu-jitsu and keep everything out of that because you pull, and some and you do this thing, you do that thing, and this, and you wear the gis, and now it's the same gi, and now it's this, and finally you're somewhere you don't want to be,
Exactly.
So that's my issue with that. So yeah.
So, at what stage did you start going into like the niche of like defensive jiu-jitsu? What kind of like put you down that path where you're like, oh, I want to concentrate on this?
I don't know. That's because it's always, retrospect. It's always hard to go like, I'm here. How did I got here? Like I don't know. So I can give you some guesses because. Like I don't know why one incident is always in my head when I talk about it, that I really did that. We were doing side control escapes and crossface underhook, somebody has frames. And then when we sparred, whatever, after the technique part, and then one guy had a hard time doing what I told him to do, bridge and shrimp. And then I told him, try harder. So, and I'm not really proud of that at the moment, In some cases, some things might be true, try harder, try again or something, But I was like right away seeing like that the escaping, the stuff we do is not as easy as it seems.
Yeah.
And right away, if you put resistance there, it's messed up. And so I was, because I was coaching also, I was interested how to escape, because I have to teach people escapes, So I have to teach something that I believe in, And then those things weren't easy. And also the story I would tell that there was certain, I would use the word discrepancies, something like, let's say, that I noticed, and I still this day I'll talk about it, and people go, "Oh, I've never thought about it this way." Let's say what comes to side control, because always people are like, "Oh, this is the hardest." I think it's by design hardest because the way we teach. Let's say you're in close guard, yeah. In close guard top, you would think like, I give you nothing. I have my frames, I actually have a different idea about frames also. I don't grab a gi or everything else, but it's a different story. I don't like conventional things about close guard top, but the idea is that I don't give you nothing, and then I open, yeah? They usually try to open the standing up. But the idea is that I'm in safest way, keep everything in zero, and then I open. Then makes sense. Okay. Then in mount, most likely everybody usually starts like this, that it's a little bit on your side, you have your typical 2 arms, but you start from there. Okay. Then, but why from side control we start from crossface underhook?
Yeah.
Why it's like you don't start mount crossface underhook and then, escape, Then everybody will go like, yeah, that's difficult. Why wouldn't, like in close guard, you don't start, somebody has an overhook or arm drag already, open the legs. So in side control is like crossface underhook, You're already giving them a pin, and then you're complaining it's hard to escape. And pin by definition, they're the hardest to escape, And and same thing in back, you right away start with seatbelt. So no wonder you're stuck. So it should be it should be similar ideas that in close guard we have give them nothing, take from them everything idea, In mount, we have the same. We don't start with underhooks and stuff, Double underhooks, start from mount escaping. That's already like a different level escape that somebody should do if there's level difference or if there's weight difference, And then in side control also, there should be a way to start escaping without them having like a closed circle grips on you, and also on the back, seatbelt. There's been already something went wrong. And when you teach this way, like a crossface underhook and frames, you teach people to get stuck there and to escape from there. Okay? So you precursor them like, oh, they recognize this. Now I know how to escape from here. And you make them stuck. And I do those tests in my seminars. I'm like, I will squeeze you, and then, I know I can squeeze you the minute, or something. I will squeeze you, not breach and shrimp. And the second of all is like, if I ask anybody in seminars, like purples and up, usually I go like purples and up, do you use breach and shrimp as your main escape? Then most people go like, no, it's there, but it's not their main thing. So the question is, why we're teaching people things that they don't use in a higher belts? We should see what they use in higher belts and dumb it down, some earlier version of this, and then teach that, how purple belts escape, and then, but most likely they're not letting some blue belts, pin them or whatever, they do it so earlier shit a little bit. So my idea was like, I think if I'm making sense of what actually happened in the history is like, okay, how do we create similar situation that I'm in side control bottom, but they don't have it, Yeah. So it's kind of like in close guard top, it's my position. If there will be overhook arm drags, it's your position, So how do we make that even mount bottom? That's my thing, Not you have to break it to attack me. So what would be side control? My thing, What would be back escape? My thing, and then it's your thing, And that makes more sense,
Yeah.
Start back escapes without any underhooks, And then it's easier to start to look for that. And then, okay, you guys, you're turning around. It's easy. Now let's add difficulty, And when you have success, you want to make it harder yourself, So that kind of, I would like to think that was kind of that process. And I was trying to figure it out. And this, I remember that inconsistency, whatever you want to call it, that was already like very visible for me, that why we're doing here this and here that, This doesn't make any sense. And then we're complaining side control is difficult, It is difficult because you're in a pin,
Yeah.
So, and so that's one thing I usually tell. And then I think being a coach helped because you have to find solutions.
Yeah.
And also, I think I wasn't stupid one because I was let's call it narcissistically, I was a top dog in my gym. Yeah. And if you're top dog for some time, yeah, you have a tendency that you can dominate, and you don't learn anything like defensively, because you can kick everybody's ass, So, and I think I was a purple belt, highest belt in the gym, blah, 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 and my kind of weight is usually 80, 90 kilos or something. So I'm not the smallest one. So it's usually easier for me. Yeah. And I remember that I put myself in bad positions, in mount bottom or something, because I want to train, and if everybody's like, less skilled than you a little bit. So it's fun to put yourself in triangles or, or mount. Yeah. I remember I trained my mount with some guy of 64 kilos or something, because what else could we do with him? Because he's so small.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that kind of also maybe added to defense. Yeah. And there's very random things like happened because I don't know how I got hooked to Eduardo Telles, because he's like, what, because I remember his matches, just pulled turtle and then, won. So it's very, very weird how things have happened. And you go like, how did it happen? How did I got stuck to that, Because now I do it. So it's very actually hard. I don't, because it's very slowly ease in and you don't notice it. And finally you're like, oh, we're doing turtle. How did that happen, So I can't give you already precise answers, but the interest of coaching and seeing something in inconsistencies and stuff are always there. And just giving a bad advice and feeling bad about it.
Yeah. Another thing is you seem to go against the grain of like how things are usually conducted. Obviously there's a process, the seminar's done like this, you take your photos, then you go kind of thing. And you seem to be very, I mean, you're a coach as well, but I feel like you're almost like a PhD student, kind of like doing your research and like trying and collect data and stuff like that. How did that, number one, how do you get the data that you want, number one? Because it's quite difficult when everything is kind of like same-ish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's So a lot of, actually some people call me, ask me like, do I have an engineering background? I was like, no, I just love their language. Yeah. Because they've learned to talk. Yeah. And then I love the language because obviously it's a functional language and I use it because it works. I don't have to invent how to talk. So, but to get data, you have to put yourself there. So eventually, if you draw the line to this day, I've constrained myself to, I don't know, back, mount, side control, playing, I think even over 15 years. I think the turtle was, I played it before, I know, before I got a black belt, I think. That was 2012. I think it did it before, but consciously it happened later that we actually understood what we did. But let's say, 10, 15 years playing back forward. And that's why I have a lot of information. Yeah. I'm not the best guy, but I've been there very long. So you get data by doing it again, Yeah. And by weeding out, seeing patterns, what works, what doesn't work, why it doesn't work, So, and so the point was also to just find structures when the people have hard time pinning you. And that's why the, shoulder to the chest ideas and facing them, facing away from them. And, always turtling that. I grew up with a sentence that you should never stay in turtle. It's always transitional position. But that's so flawed argument. I don't even know where to begin because everything is transitional position. Why would you stay in mount? You escape while they mount you, whatever, And then argument was usually, oh, they will punch you in the head. But now we have UFC evidence. Chimaev versus Usman, straight arm turtle. That guy, I think he's Swedish Checheni wrestler, I think, or something. And they couldn't knock him and choke him out. Yeah. There was a Volkanovski-Chimaev, Makachev fight. And I know Greg Jones, they taught him straight arm turtle because if they body lock and they punch, he will get up because Volkanovski is quite short and, former rugby player and just get up. So we've seen turtle, straight arm turtle working in MMA, And all this argument, oh, you get punched in the face and stuff and you can't turn your back. It's like in MMA, they turn actually quite a lot their back, and against the fence and stuff. So, and I would like to think that if somebody tells me you can't turn your back, I will do it because you say I can't. And so a lot of random things, I guess, pushed me. And it's quite actually interesting story that how we discovered the turtle that that we started with, it was one Swedish guy, Eric Linden, actually, because we know the Tellus thing, but I don't have access to Tellus. So the closest thing that we find was Swedish guy, Eric Linden. He was really good. He was, I think, living in Linköping then. He was really good in turtle, but he couldn't explain what he did.
Yeah.
He was just doing stuff, and I was like, I had really hard time taking his back, or if I even took his back, I don't know. And then he did a seminar in Estonia. It was very technique based, and it wasn't very good because he didn't explain what he does.
Yeah.
And then with different things, we tested. I remember like every month something, I do this, and then people broke it down. Okay, let's study. Well, maybe does this, this kind of structure. And finally, we figured out what it does was, elbows close. This turtle we started with, head on a mat, elbows in a hip area,
Yeah.
That's how we started. And then I asked him, do you do that? He was like, yes. I was like, why the hell did you tell me? I didn't know, So it took us, I remember, it sounds like a joke. It took us like 2.5 years. Because it's, in Sweden, it's not like every day we communicate and not every day we test things, but it takes a while to think about it, let's test this, let's test that. So what does it do? What's the always there, So, and then it took us like 2.5 years, and we figured out the elbows. And that's how it started, the head on a mat and stuff. And that had flowed, and that's why we play head up. Also right now, it's not like head on the mat is bad, but now we know more. And now we call it like referee turtle or a straight arm turtle. And so there's also elbow posture and stuff. So it has evolved, but then the turtle happened like this. I just met the guy. I could compare to Tellus and start to figure out that, okay, this does this, and we can understand Eric Linden. So let's see, can we understand this? And after that, Dallas did the same thing, by the way, the elbow stuff. And so it gave us the key to start to understand what Tellus did, because it's basically like nobody can take his back and we don't know how, why. And then in his DVDs, he goes very, very shortly over why he's safe. It's mostly about the techniques he does. Yeah. And then my DVD about the turtle, is like only how to stay safe, basically. I talk like we presented like 2 hours or something. How do they stay safe, So, and it's kind of like a weird niche that, just a structure, like only do this. And that's why, the grilled chicken was there, it was from the André Calvao and Braulio match, 2013, November, I guess, 80cc. And then, because open guard is usually hard to understand.
Yeah.
And by the grilled chicken, I think the structure, rotisserie chicken in English, it started, all the structures started like this with grilled chicken, because in Estonia, you call rotisserie chicken grilled chicken.
Yeah.
So, but that match, because Brauli held his guard against Calvao with that simple structure, knees in, and he didn't commit much. And we were like, and Calvao, I'm not saying it's like to bash him, but he looked like he doesn't know so much as he knows, because Brauli was doing that.
Yeah. And
I was like, that's really interesting that one structure was dominating the whole match and Calvao had really hard time. And we were like, let's study that, and then it took us some time, but then we made it work, and that's what the DVD was about, grilled chicken. So, and now, Miao plays like this and Mendes brothers, but people didn't talk about it. It was all about, how to get grips and stuff. So that's 0 point, how we are, and then we reach from here and stuff, it gets out. That was new in that sense. It's not only me, but now Lachlan did a video about it. I think he did a video with Ari Dabak or something. And then he talked about it, same as structure. And it wasn't so common back then that it's just that. Because if I taught grilled chicken seminars, people were like sometimes like stressed, like, what the hell is this? Who plays like this? This is insane. And what about grips and stuff? And I was like, I keep my guard like this. And it was very, very hard to sell people that. But now there's way more evidence how it works. I'm not against stretching, by the way, and everything. Yeah. So, and then basically grilled chicken, and then turtle was basically flipped. And when we figured out, because we went around to figure out the turtle, and then we understood it's basically grilled chicken flipped around.
Yeah.
And that gave us like, it's the same, And then what else is there? And then randomly I started to play with sitting turtle. It's very, very Eduardo Tellez inspired. He played that less himself, I think, more like a traditional things. And then that was the same, like, grilled chicken sitting or, something. And it was already like same structure. Yeah. But they were all symmetry. They were all symmetrical. And then, Saulo also, defensive stuff was also this, that Saulo Ribeiro, because he was the guy that said in some video, why would you give a person a crossface? We were like, quite interesting idea.
Yeah.
And then we started to develop, how to keep our head on a mat and make everything heavy so you can't dig under. And that's, the precursor for the structures we used. And also Saulo said, there's he has a video, Running Man Defense something, like 10 years, 15 years ago, and it's still in YouTube. And then somebody's behind him, and Saulo is like, they're lying there, his structure, Running Man. And then he said, yeah, he's just behind me. He's not going to take my back. And I was like, if 10-time world champion says this, so it's like, I will take his word value, I don't have to study it myself. I believe that he means it, And then we started with that. So it gave us also ways that it wasn't so common to do that, because turning the back was always like, don't do it. It was a weird mantra that everybody kept saying. And I guess if you don't think for yourself, you kind of believe it, because your coaches, you think they have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
But maybe they just repeat something they heard and they don't think about it. My coach did it and that stuff. So a lot of things that this kind of passing stuff happened. And Saulo was, yeah, you can do it. And, he's not there. You can't take her back. We were like, what? And then that, I guess, gave us information, start playing with that. Add this to what we did in Estonia. And then everything combined started to go like, oh, it's actually kind of weird defensive system here. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can Running Man, And then what we're missing was like when somebody's actually top on a side control, how we survive there, because if we're flat, it's terrible, you know?
Yeah.
So then certain kind of turning away or turning in certain way, and to take away those pressures, that was the last piece that kind of bothered me, because I didn't think that frames were always necessary. And then so one thing led to another, and now just keep searching, because I always know what's wrong and something doesn't click and something's not perfect, so I keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't say it publicly that it's bad, because if I don't offer any alternatives, it won't help finding about it, So and then some years go, and then I change something, and then it's like, now it's better,
Yeah.
So I always refine it. And now we're here, and now I'm using CLA to teach it, and it's even better than before. So
yeah. Before we go into the CLA subject, actually, like with the turtle and stuff like that, defensive structures, it's really interesting because obviously this is the first time I was actually meeting face to face, obviously, and we've never communicated prior to that, besides like organizing the seminar, etc. But then obviously we have two of your black belts in Thailand, Lisi, Vat, and Vova, and they're both based in Pattaya, but obviously they can't get the training that they want to get in because it's Pattaya and it's just not that type of place basically. So they come to the open mats. They'll do open mats at various gyms, help teaching out other gyms as well. But you definitely get a sense of their style is unique, especially Vova, because he plays defensive turtle a lot, and a lot of people didn't even expect that. I mean, even Mikey was like, well, "What is this?" Kind of like, "Oh wow, it's actually a really fun role. I've never experienced this before." So it's just and competitively, I mean, they're probably like definitely the most some of the most successful people in Thailand right now competitively. Lisi's done one, and Vova went up against a very good competitor in Craig Hutchinson, and he won as well. Yeah. So yeah, just. The subject I want to get onto was obviously if you have you're into your defensive jiu-jitsu as well, but then let's say we bridge that the next gap, which is going to be counter-attacking, etc. Do you think having good defense means you're going to be more confident in your attacks, as in like pulling the trigger basically?
That's logical.
Yeah.
So one way I could say jokingly, I bored them so much with defense that they want to do offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lizzie, Lizzie's nickname I think is Arm Collector,
Yes, her arm bars are incredible.
Yeah, she's very submission oriented, and sometimes like, yeah, but she's your student, now she's obviously already been away from Estonia for so long, but she was like, how, she's doing so much submissions, Vova, I met Vova, I think he was a purple, and then he gave him brown, I think. And Vova, I think, was drawn to my way of seeing things or defense and stuff. And I've seen the Mikey roll with Vova, and I was so proud. And because, I could maybe not do it in that level. Yeah. Vova is a better athlete, I think, and, more flexible and stuff and everything. And he's very, very hard roll, even against my weight. And I'm like, God damn it, this is awesome, you know, that we can make it work. And then Mikey is one of the best guys in back takes and stuff. And Bo was just like, you know, it wasn't competitive match, you know, we can always, I'm not saying that nobody takes forwards back and everything, that's stupid. But he was like, you know, that's interesting, you know, and even Mikey was like, yeah, this is very cool, you know. And if Mikey says that, it has to be something, you know. So I always said, like, defense makes you fearless. Yeah. So, and a lot of the good guys are like, you know, if your defense is solid, you will take more risks because you have somewhere to back to, you know, you have retreat to. And other way, if you know every chance you take from guard triangle, they will pass your side control, that pass to side control, and then you pin you, and then you're stuck forever. You will stop taking risks, you know. So it's very counterintuitive. Like it's like your defense has to be so good that you can just take risks and go berserk mode. But if you go berserk mode, you never have to do defense because you're always attacking. So you like basically end up maybe not even using that. So that's why do you need it? You need to be brave, you know. You need it to be brave. So it's, and then also obviously you see top guys, you know, and you don't see them doing much defense. But they're also fearless, you know. They don't care. If you know, I remember the match Buchecha took like Gordon Ryan's leg, and Gordon was like laughing at that, you know, that you're not going to submit me there, you know. So imagine the confidence you should have, you know. And so defense makes you fearless, you know, that I don't care. And then I think it's the most demoralizing skill, because if you can't beat me, you will not take the risk to challenge me. Yeah. So, and it's really like going like deeper philosophy here. Is it's fighting without fighting. Yeah. It's really like I don't know. I don't know if it's a samurai way. You know, there's different misconception about what they were, but it's like, you know, like Bruce Lee movie when he put the guy in a boat and then the boat went behind and then they went. You know, it's like I don't want to fight you because it's like fighting without fighting. If I'm so good that you're good, but you can't find a way to beat me, you will not take on the risk. And my defense is so good that I will find a way to beat you. You know, so. And so it's like really like, you know, like I said, fighting without fighting. You're so confident with your ability to take all the challenges, and then you find your way to do yours. And I think it's like very martial arts, you know. And you know, other philosophy would be like, I'm not for self-defense. There's a different topic. I don't really like self-defense. I understand it's necessary, but the way it's promoted to some people using fear and everything. So I've been in that cycle, you know. Wing Chun was all about kicking nuts and poking eyes, you know, and it's very dangerous road there. And I'm open to also talk about it if somebody wants, but I don't think that's topic for this podcast. But I really think it's very dangerous to learn self-defense. And if you can do it with coaches, good, but it's very paranoia world. Yeah. And, you know, knife defense and stuff, and, you know, the wrist locks to bigger people is like, no, you know. So, but there's something like I went a little bit rant, so I lost my thought a little bit, but it's like self-defense. Yeah, we can move on in that sense that fighting without fighting and stuff. I lost my word because I got triggered again by the word self-defense. God damn it. All good.
I had a discussion with Dorothy, and she was training at AOJ for a while. She's a nogi pants champion as well, and she was saying she has a bone to pick with like self-defense, especially for a woman. It's like, you know, it's like you're going to teach them, you know, it's like if you get a chance, fucking run, basically, you know, and that should be it.
Yeah. So it's false confidence, first of all. And just like, God damn it, it was so good thought. It's usually my long topic, but yeah. So I don't think it makes sense to do it. I think it's very easy. Let's say easier to make athletes better self-defenders than self-defenders to make athletes. Yeah, if you have a good delivery system of boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, I can teach you how to poke eyes and kick the nuts, you know. Yeah. And otherwise, if you don't have any conflict experience, you will freak out. A lot of people maybe don't by nature, but they have. But a lot of people freeze and stuff. So you need to know that you've been in a conflict, you know. Yeah. And also jiu-jitsu ethos of remember self-defense, Helio Gracie, you know, self-defense, blah blah blah, you know. And then also why I love defense also is another philosophical thing is they say jiu-jitsu's point is to be comfortable in very uncomfortable positions. Yeah. And to live really that ethos, it's basically defense. and, positional defense, that under side control, I find my calm, I look for a moment, I'm not panicking, like a, Huron Gracie and not struggle well much, or let's say I'm in submissions and I can do my stuff, get out, there's nothing more uncomfortable than being in submissions. And then every millimeter matters, I'm very good in choke defense in a gi also, it doesn't mean I don't get tapped, but, I know a lot, I've been choked a lot. And then it's like, there's no room for error,
Yeah.
It's like you have to do, and then, so that's like, you have to be the calmest in that moment, And that's why also I love defense, that you obviously, you can't rush with submissions and then one mistake and they slip a heel, But I think if you're the receiving end of submissions and chokes, it's way more dangerous because they can break your arm, and everything else. So I think the risk is bigger.
Yeah.
And I think the high is better.
Yeah.
I think to beat somebody good, I think it means something.
Yeah.
But if somebody good can't beat you, in my, I'm always the bias, and it tickles me differently. But it's like it means a lot. Like just they can't find a way, and so it's like more like jiu-jitsu ethos of self-defense, being comfortable in uncomfortable positions, making the smaller guy less suffer, like you're here, making them stronger, building them up, and then you let them fight back, And there's so much talk right now, if you watch Danaher, he always talks about defense first, blah, blah, blah. And then when I talk about it, it's like controversial, like, why you want defense? If you watch everybody says usually side control defense, bin bottom defense, then you learn to get them guard, then you learn to sweep them, then you get the top. So it seems to be the cycle people promote,
Yeah.
Just first year survival, and then my mission seems to be like, let's make that survival more enjoyable, And if you understand why you lose, it's easier to suffer, let's say, and then you take on the challenge because you know exactly why you lost. Oh, let's do it again,
Yeah.
But if you just get beat up and you don't know why, and they tell you they enjoy it, I think it's torture.
Yeah.
So I think it's very hard to enjoy it, and then it takes a certain person to survive. But I don't think you build a club on that, and like a family club or a bigger club, or you have just tough people after that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think the majority of coaches get wrong? Because obviously you have the.
One thing I've been saying, maybe it doesn't answer the question, but I would say I'm a specialist. Yeah, I'm upper body, upper body up, specialist of positional and submission. I don't know everything, but I know a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a major rabbit hole. And sometimes I don't understand how somebody can know everything. Because, obviously I can pass the guard and stuff, I can teach it, but like if somebody is just being smart about every aspect of jiu-jitsu, they're like, how deep are you going? It's certain like shallow level, not in a bad way, but I think knowing what I know, it's so deep. I'm just keep discovering, changing, making it easier, developing systems, making survival easier, and then submissions, and it's so big rabbit hole. I don't think about it constantly, And I maybe don't explore these days more at the moment because of my situation, and sometimes I'm less active in a gym, but I think about it a lot. I still come up with stuff. So. And so the one I would say, like, it's that what they get it wrong is they know everything. Okay, I can teach side control pin, I can turn pot, I can do this, I can do that. It's like I would say like it's safer to turn towards specialists. And I'm not the only defensive specialist. There's great defenders in the world, But if you really want to know something, that look for leg lock specialist, look for that. And then you can be a generalist, but it's like understand that it's quite deep what this weird game jiu-jitsu is. And to get the best information, you need to work with specialists. That can go like, okay, this is it. And now you're going to, let's say in this era, you can do CLA games and stuff. And you go, okay, that's the best information we have. And then how we gamify it, how we do tasks about it, So don't think that you just know everything about it. Everything is changing. Leg locks are changing, Mechanics now, outside heel hook is back. 2 years ago, I was told, oh, you can't submit anybody with outside heel hook. Now it's happening, boom, boom, It's like, talk to specialists,
Yeah.
and then figure out what you know and try to advance your thing. And if you can't be a specialist, you will be a generalist, but you work with specialists.
Yeah.
And obviously my minus is like I'm a specialist, so I'm lacking other information. So I'm not going to claim anything about guard passing. I would use other people for that. So that is like, assume that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then also, we're here also because of coaching. So I don't know why I always were curious, and I wish I would have discovered certain things earlier about coaching, but I guess, I'm doing it now. And that change for me wasn't hard, I'm reading books and stuff and understood quite quickly that what is better when we change to CLA, and let's call it ecological dynamics. And so, because I guess I had some thought in my head that maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the best way?
Yeah.
And then I'm interested. And then I feel, again, a lot of, when I see the backlash of, CLA and internet and stuff, and so many people, that the wild part is so many coaches are saying their opinion about something they have not looked into.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is positional sparring. For me, it looks like this. And that's their shallow opinion, and that's that, So it should be like, why are you saying this? You don't know anything about it. And the weird part is, I understand, like, they can't see how it could be that different than what they do. But when you go in, it is.
Yeah.
And and then it's like, they go like, no, it isn't. But they haven't. And it's weird to go like, read a book to understand it. I don't think it's a good entry also. And it's the divided that has happened in the world. But for me, it was easy. I was just, like somebody said, we talked about it with Francesco Fonta, my good friend. And he was like, yeah, but Priit, you're always curious. You're always researching. So you're always trying to find, something better or something. So for me, it wasn't hard, but I see how hard it is for some people, to change. So for coaches, just know that there's so much more. And the best attitude is, I don't know. And then you start to go, So it's those assume that I think it's that's the biggest obstacle of progress.
Yeah.
So for coaches, being open-minded and just, So because most of us are like getting black belt, but you can do. That's the one thing. It's a skill you can do, but to make others do, it's a lot of people don't believe it's a different skill. It's not like I will show you my moves,
Yeah.
And no, you have to let them create their style, how they move. And that's a totally different beast, different weight classes. And to think that if you reach a black belt, you know how to teach, you open a gym, and you don't make an effort to actually educate what is the best way to teach a motor skill, And I was super surprised that people think, oh, it's just jiu-jitsu, and they, jiu-jitsu with big words, they call it CLA, But motor learning and stuff, skill acquisition, it's pretty, nice scientific field, And the way they develop stuff is pretty like, and if you go in, you go like, oh shit, even jiu-jitsu is that deep, And how brain works and stuff. And it's not like, oh, just armbar,
Yeah.
And so I meet that attitude. I just jiu-jitsu with big words, and that's just why do you talk? Just do some work and then talk. Just and then year after, I just recently saw a podcast clip about somebody. Oh, maybe this will come bite me on the ass. It did. 7 months ago they did some podcast, and I was like, yeah, it's just jiu-jitsu with big words. And now they had also Saurers in their podcast. I think they changed their mind. But first is that's why the bad thing is. Jokingly, everybody has a podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody has a, blah, 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 And usually people had podcasts who knew something, Now everybody has an opinion, And so you have to kind of coordinate the land field, or whatever you call it. So that to find actually people that are doing the right things, not just talking about their opinions, or actually studying things or questioning things. And so, but I think it maybe settles in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then it's just we have fewer, and actually hard hitters will stay, and then it settles again. So I think it's just better. I could have I could tell you why I don't teach it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I've done half of the job. You do half. Yeah, I cannot teach you everything.
Yeah.
And then so I kind of, let's call it, I hate the talk offensive cycle and stuff. Come on. And it's not that hard. Take a beginner. do this. They're lighter weight. Go try to attack, you know? There's gazillion ways to attack. Don't tell me you can't find any, you know? And I'm not talking about in that sense you know? So it's like, but can't find a way to escape. Have you tried it? You're a brown belt. Have you tried it against white belts? Take 10 kilo lighter, go. And see what works. And I don't know what your game is. There's so many things to go, you know? So I always said, like, I do my job. I keep you safe. Yeah? And you do the others. I'm not here to teach you full jiu-jitsu. That is not what I do. I'm very open about it. I'm a specialist of defense, and I'm developing those information, how to make survival better. This is my research. And then I specialize it. I'm, you know, like there's a heart surgeon, there's a general surgeon, you know. I'm a specialist of some kind of thing that's necessary. You know? And the rest of it, I don't care. I don't have time to develop the rest of that, you know? And so that's my argument. That people go like, yeah, but it's just weird. Any other field, people narrow in very, very narrow research, and they're fine. Nobody goes like, why you only searching for that molecule? Because I like it. You know, I can't search 10 molecules because then it takes 100 years. So I'm also like, it's so much to do there actually. It looks simple, but I think it's very deep, and there's stuff to do. And there's like, I don't have time. I have a kid, I have a family. You know, I have to run a gym. I cannot be 8 hours in a day, so I specialize to actually be purposeful. So the idea was to test the first layer, so not to go very deep with defense, like, you know, seat belts and hooks and stuff. And so he was really keeping the first layers, and he was quite nervous before the match. Because, you know, some of them are purple belts and some of them are black belts. I don't know which one is that, sadly. It was in Belgium. But imagine like going to competition and turn your back to the people you don't know who they are. It's like, you know, it takes guts, you know. And then I know we were stalling and we were trying our things out, and people want evidence. So, you know, and then I guess I told him something now, and then, you know, he's the inversion machine. He has he has a weird pocket knife. Pocket knife just goes, it just disappears. His family puts pressure on him on a turtle, you know. And then there was coaches who said, "Get out, get away from turtle." And then he does his weird shuffle steps and goes after them and being active in turtle bottom, you know, because people started to avoid him. And so we were testing. He's a quite strong guy, you know. So can he get through? Can he get like a seatbelt and stuff? And it was just like, you know, I don't know, proof of concept or something, you know. And, you know, we were expecting some stalling calls also, you know. And then we play with rules, and it's 2.5 minutes, and then we survive, and then we do stuff. So, and it was very, very brave of the rule that they actually did. And I don't know when, I also gave him black belt. So he's my black belt. I just saw him in January. We did a shield and sword seminar in his gym. He has a tribe grappling in Amsterdam now. So also you saw that he was like sitting like a lotus and then head on a mat. So this is like a panda Buddha or something. There's a position we call panda sitting turtle. So there's a Buddha panda, so because he can just put himself like in like a pocket knife. And those running man, you know, knees, everything. So, and see, like those are purple belts and up. And I see this is a Buddha Banda or Panda Buddha. And so those are all, like, you know, purple belts are not easy. You still they already know jiu-jitsu. And it was a good test. So obviously it would be awesome that everybody's a black belt, you know, everybody's a decent. But it was a first test. We didn't know actually how well we do, you know. Do we lose? Do we not win? So it was a round robin. So we were guaranteed some matches. And weird one, Absolute was not. Absolute was brackets. We didn't know.
Oh, okay.
So we thought it was round robin, but then he kept winning, and then we were in the game. And so that's even sideways. Our structure called Hawking that we called. Now I actually moved away from using names with CLA, so I don't call them. I just describe the function. So I'm kind of, I don't know, semi-happy about it. Or there was already some stances that were too much, so it's kind of time to move on. And so Raul, I think maybe even he said he wants to do it again, but I don't know. But it was made him internet famous. And the weird part with this match is that people come to his gym to learn turtle. And he has even DVDs out, mastering turtle. But he's more leg locker and open guard guy. And people know him more for turtle, you know. And that's like hilarious that we talk that that is like, I'm not the turtle guy, you know. He's just, you know, my, let's say my student. And but people know him like a turtle guy now. And I couldn't do it, so I wasn't that in that shape. So I'm happy he did it. And I think in YouTube there's like a 70 or 80,000 views already.
Yeah.
So, and that video just killed Reddit. If you go to Reddit, there was like over 500 comments. We did it by purpose. We just put it there and just let it be.
Yeah.
And that was wild. That people had opinions. Yeah, it wouldn't work in a street. In a street, you would get punched in the face. We were like, are we in a street? We're doing this. It's like, you know, and, you know, you never know who you're talking there. So there was a lot of stupidity going on. And we were just testing our structures in a jiu-jitsu environment, what we train for. And I don't have any other ambitions. I don't train for MMA. I don't train for street. And I don't think jiu-jitsu, if you think jiu-jitsu is for street and everything you do is for street, you're delusional. Yeah. You learn so much stuff that doesn't work in a street, let's say, or maybe it does because they don't know anything. So most likely you will just dominate anything. Yeah. Anyway, so the street argument is very stupid. Yeah. So it's very not good debate to have with people because it's all hypothetical. Like what happens this and what if this and what if that, and you know, but that was, yeah. So it was pretty, like, my heart was racing also, obviously, like, you know, what happens and stuff. But then I found out he has that switch, that roll, time, and off he goes, and, you know. And you see a lot of people are confused, you know. What they do is like, okay, what do I do here? See, weird kind of turtle, like, and what they're looking for is really weird also because everybody's like seatbelt, you know. So they don't know how to get a seatbelt because they're usually YouTube is full of those turtles with elbows on a mat. And if elbows are on a mat, you get a seatbelt, you know. But if he keeps it close, you know, and there's less access for seatbelts. So a lot of people were confused. How do I attack this turtle, you know? So, and I think it was a good test. So I guess it would be better that we would test it regularly and do this and that. Yeah. But I guess it's not that, just leg locks. But I guess we're not that big that we have like a competition team, 10 people just going testing new shit, you know. And it's obviously not very competition friendly. Basically, like I know, you know Merkatsu? Yes. Yeah, Merkatsu also has Merkatsu has, he competed one guy 3 times because of the bracket, because they're older, you know? Yeah. And then I think the one round he did also defensive BJ just to test. Yeah. But it's not obviously very competition friendly. You go there to side control bottom and then you have to really fight back from there. Yeah. So it's not like I can expect people, okay, let's go and try our defensive stuff, you know? So you go there to win. So, but if you have that switch and in some semi-decent competition where there's purples and blacks, you can pull this off. And I'm not sure we do it again, but it was just a fun experiment. Yeah. And he can sell, like, you know, he sells DVDs about it, and they kind of made his career. Yeah. So it's super funny. So so I'm really appreciative that he did that. So props to Raul.
Yeah. Question number 1 is what's your most unpopular BJJ opinion?
Oh my God, that stresses me out. Clapping. Yeah, just don't stop clapping. I want to meet open invitation. I want to meet the person who's not clapping. No. And maybe just don't call people professors.
Oh, I hate that. I absolutely
It's a Portuguese word in English language. Yeah. And just, you know, that's popped my mind because that's what my passion is, but maybe there's something more. But yeah, so clapping and so professors.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Question number 2, or B, is there a move or technique you think is completely overrated?
No, I think everything has its place. Kind of a very bad answer in a way, but everything can happen. It just depends on a style. So I'm not against like leg locks and, you know, just, you know, I will pass your guard when you actually defend your legs, you know? Yeah. So I don't think anything is like, I don't think that rolling with some cranks and stuff is healthy for long term. You know, and there has to be like a mitigate risk, what's healthy. But other than that, if it's safe environment, I don't mind. If it's, I use Rob Perniacki modified quote, there's no bad moves, there's bad speeds. He used more harsher words.
Yeah.
So, but there's no bad, I really like it. There's no bad move, there's bad speed. So crank done fast is dangerous. Crank done slowly gives you way to tap, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. That's actually a good one. I've actually had to ask a student not to come back for a month because, he popped the student's elbow, and then I just had to be like, do you understand why you're in trouble right now? And he was just like, so I'm supposed to extend the arm and just let it go? I'm like, yes, you are.
Yeah, or just give them time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, he used the harsher words, so I'm not using it in the podcast.
Why do you think people are so against constraints-led approach or eco-approach, basically?
Disrupts the standard. Yeah, and always people know what they're doing and somebody tells them they can't.
Yeah.
And also, I think Sauter said it good, that it seems to be attack on their identity. They take it personally. And that seems to be a weird thing to do, but also very human. And but we've been doing this. We've been, we've been producing results, But there's a weird kind of argument that if 20 people do, let's say, information processing, 20 clubs, and they compete, somebody wins. Is it a proof of the method, or just somebody wins?
Yeah.
So. And I think that just, like we produced and we know what we're doing, and there's this, and somebody comes and tells us everything is wrong, In a way, bluntly said it, it's not that, but, and then always the backlash because who are you? What have you done? Instead of just watching what the message is, people go like, what have you done? So I think it's just disrupting the balance. And a lot of people are like who are established, haven't thought about it, haven't done the studies, and then they don't like to be wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's usually like, what do you mean I don't know? And I produced those champions, and but they never see like why they did those champions. If you go 1,000 people go through and you have 5 champions, maybe just by numbers you have that,
Yeah.
People coming from favelas going like this, and you produce champions. By numbers you already do that, It's not maybe your method even, it's just tough room.
Good.
So
okay. What's one thing you wish you knew earlier in BJJ when you started training?
about coaching.
About coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably how to coach, how to do this. Believe people less. It's serious. Because I don't think the people are always mean, but just always like somebody should remind you that question everything, but don't be like, I don't believe you on anything, but more that. So because, don't turn your back. Yes, you can. Don't put your arms on a mat in close guard top. Yes, you can. Nothing will happen, I fight those things right now. I play close guard on a mat, hands on a mat. Nothing happens. Yeah. Because I know how to play it. So a lot of those dogmas that I took for granted. Yeah. And so it's like they didn't tell us the story why. Don't turn your back. Because I promote these days now that, okay, don't turn your back if you don't know what to do. Yeah. That's a better open-ended, Don't put your arms on a mat in close guard if you don't know what to do. Because people think it's kimura, It's not. If you do this, no, kimura is that, kimura, So don't just go like, don't turn your back, don't do this, This is just, who are you, You never know. And I have a good story about actually that, but I don't think it fits the 90 seconds.
If someone wants to drastically improve their defensive game, what are the top 3 things they should focus on?
These days, I say, try to lose a lot in a very short time in a very safe way.
That's really good, yeah.
That's experience.
Yeah.
So either you prolong it, you get it for a year, and then you just can't find the patterns. But if you do it very short, whatever the short means, so it's like lose a lot in a very short time and safely. So turn your back as much as you can to understand how the back take happens. Avoiding it doesn't help it, because people are learning to expose your back, so you better know what to do. Yeah. So more exposure in bad positions. And also not against your own weight, obviously lighter weights and stuff. And turn your back, be in side control like forever, be in mount. Just like do that all and get a lot of experience how things happen. And then you have seen 50 different ways of how the back take happens. And you can have a better understanding how to stop it, So just more exposure. Yeah, so that's what I've recently been saying. Yeah. And we don't think about losing. We get data. What to do, what not to do, what to do more, what to do less, and training is for that. Building as quick as a lot of context as possible. What happens, and then you can see everything coming, and then you can make a better guess what to do, So I think it's really important. Just get exposed.
That's good. You've introduced concepts like the 45-degree rule and the capital T body positioning, along with hawking. Would you integrate these concepts? How would you integrate these concepts into a fundamentals program?
I would lose 45 and I would lose the hawking because there's the same thing, but maybe the T, we call it shoulder to the chest, kind of makes more sense. Now I'm using that more. But that's basically what we do also in your gym. That just avoids pinning. The idea is that my shoulder is in their chest and they're always behind the horizon. So it's always, I'm going to adjust my angle so you can never get top or get up behind. Yeah. So that is one of the best ways to not make side control like 100 kilo position because being sideways, it's easier to absorb pressures. Chest to chest is always like, you can suffocate people actually. So being sideways, shoulder to the chest and keeping them behind that horizon, so they can't get it. It's dynamics in that sense. And that is a very good way for beginners to avoid being flat. Okay. And then you can try frames and stuff, but then if something fails, the point is when frames fails and you fail to bring your knees in, where would you go? Frames, oh shit, my knees, and then, then build the frames back, try again, But without that safe, I don't know, bail safe, whatever you call it, fail safe. Yeah. Your frames are losing, and then you get flat, and then you get flat, and then the people torture you, Yeah. So there has to be like a way to bail and survive. So, very good. And typically it's frames, so we went like a layer deeper.
Okay. So what does a black belt mean to you?
Nothing and everything. Nothing changes. Yeah. I gave one black belt myself, and one I was there for somebody else. And then the person was saying this is the end, and I was like, no, this is beginning. Yeah. But today, when I came from Chiang Mai here, nothing changed. Still the same man. He was already before the black belt. He was a black belt. Yeah. So I know it means something. I know it's recognition, but in a I really am in a respectful way, not to take away the meaning. It's everything. And end of the day, it's nothing. And it's really, nothing is like really beautiful because you're not attached to it. Yeah. And I think it's really important that you're not attached to it because then you act like a black belt, And I think after black belt, you get a free from that. Yeah. Like you can really think without it before you want to reach it. Yeah. And then you think like, oh, it's actually nothing and you can just be. Yeah. And just learn and forget, So that's why I think it's like everything because it means really something. There's a level we can compare and it is hard to reach and it means a lot. But later you have to let go because there's some assholes around who still gonna bully people and use their power plays and stuff on people. Yeah. So it's healthier to let it go, not to consume you.
Beautiful. That's probably the best answer I've ever had so far. Okay. My last question is, who would you like to thank?
Now I'm gonna cry. No, because I thought about my son. Oh. My wife, who lets me do this. Mother of my kids, my family, and everything. So, and all the hardships and stuff. I don't have my dad right now, but I still have my mom. So everything has led to me to this point. But at the moment, because we're in a situation that we have, my child's illness, we're fighting leukemia. Yeah. So at the moment it's like my wife is my support and my son. So.
Sorry.
No. It's like those are the stress that it's like the lid is on because it's very stressful and there's this trigger. It's all therapy, so I don't mind. I'm not ashamed of that. Okay. That hit me really hard right now. So this sometimes it comes out because it's the stress. That was hard. That was a good question. But yeah, right now my wife, I really want to thank just the way she supports me. She lets me do what I do, lets me be me, lets me search, lets me do stuff, takes care of the family when I'm gone. So, and obviously people who have got me here, obviously people thank their family and stuff and everything. Oh, that was hard. And so at the moment I would say like this because I'm very tied to the previous years at the moment. So I would say that that it's right now it's tough.
Okay, thank you.